Welcome to the Off Leash Podcast with Dr. Pete. I'm your co-host, Molly Van Branken, and we are so happy that you joined us for today's show. Remember, we're not here to say what you want us to say. We're here to be an advocate for your pet.
There we are.
How's it going today?
It's good.
Good. Yeah.
Just got a haircut and
Looking sharp.
yeah, although unless you're watching YouTube, you're going to see how sharp I look.
Yeah, so everyone tune into the YouTube channel. We actually just discussed the difference between men's haircuts and women's haircuts because we are expensive. We dye and cut and color and put treatments in our hair.
And I spend almost no money.
He was like, my haircut's $25. I was like, I wish my haircut was $25.
Plus 37 cents worth of gas to get over there. So
Jesus. Yeah. He was like, but I tipped her too. So
I tipped her $25. I don't know what appropriate tip for getting a haircut is.
I feel like I tip my hairstylist, but it's already $175. I'm like, holy cow. Yeah. I feel like I always try to give her like a $20 tip.
Sure.
I feel like that's an appropriate percentage. I didn't know for the longest time that you tipped hairstylists. Had no idea. And then someone finally was like, it's a service job. You should tip.
Yeah, and a lot of people get them something on like Christmas or something like that. Yeah. The paper boy.
There's a lot of service jobs. Yeah.
The paper boy. If you get a paper now.
I don't think there are paper. Are there paper boys still?
I don't know. There may be paper boys in the right side, and a lot of people don't read papers anymore. They get it.
How do you even get the paper now? Do you have to sign up for it, or is it all online?
I get the Wall Street Journal, and it gets mailed to me.
Okay. What about the Battle Creek Inquirer?
That gets mailed to me too. And I
don't think I get it.
And I still like to. Well, I have to pay for it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I'd have to pay for it if I wanted it.
Yep.
Well, maybe someday. Everyone was talking about how papers are going out of business because they just post it all online now. Yeah,
and I still enjoy sitting in a chair and reading a newspaper. So, and I guess online is the same way, but like in the Wall Street Journal on the left-hand side, it tells you the 20 articles are in this paper. So you pick out the 3 or 4 you want to read, you think would be interesting to you.
There was one that was in the paper before. It was the something in the raspberries. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Roses and raspberries.
Roses
they
and
haven't
raspberries.
had that in a long time.
They haven't?
No.
It was like good people and bad people of Battle Creek.
Yeah.
I missed reading that.
Well, that pissed a lot of people off. So,
did it?
Yeah. Well,
the drama
didn't piss the people off that got roses, but the people that got raspberries. And somebody is, it's just like that online stuff now.
And people just submit. Remind me, because it was so long ago. People would write like whoever cut me off in traffic or something.
It's Yelp of the newspaper is what it is. So,
I loved it. I was here for it. Yeah, it was the tea.
You like that sort of smut and stuff.
It's better than the Kardashians.
That's smut too.
Oh my gosh. Well, sorry that the Wall Street Journal is not my peak interest.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of pictures in it.
Nope. No cartoons either.
Now there's a cartoon or two every once in a while. Yeah.
Okay, I take your word for it. Yep. So for you listeners...
You are not an avid reader.
I am too. That is such a lie. I read a book almost all the time before bed.
So the Washington Post, and really one of the better ones is the New York Times. The New York Times is a damn good...
you redact that statement. I just don't read newspapers.
Okay. And we used to, in the day, they called them rags. I don't know if you knew that, but this rag, that rag. Magazines, newspapers, rags.
Okay.
Yep.
Rags. Good to know.
Yep.
I'll remember that. So all of you listeners that don't know, we went to Louisville. Everyone said it was Louisville.
It's Louisville.
I don't know.
Louisville.
Everyone was yelling.
Where they make the bats. Let's just put it that way.
Louisville, whatever you want to call it. We were down there for the ACVIM convention forum.
Which is, if you don't know what that stands for, it's Association for Internal Medicine, people that are boarded.
Yeah, lots of smart people.
For veterinarians, yeah. So there's a lot of boarded people. They work in referral clinics, and and even within those things, an internist sometimes is actually more than internist. The person we went with was the liver person, and there were cardiologists there. And
there was a lot of people there.
Yeah, urologist, and there was a number of things that were done by nutritionists, and the nutritionist did a lot of things. And you go in those meetings, and some of them are over my head, and then some of them I'm right. I know exactly what they're talking about and why it's going on.
All of them were over my head.
Yeah.
But I didn't see a lot of meetings. I actually had to work the Voyager dog food booth because we had a booth there.
We did. And we saw some internists there and
Yeah.
chatted with them a little bit.
Yep.
And I think for them, it's a thing to get together with one another.
Share information.
Yes, and so I think that I think any of these veterinary conventions you go to, that you can go into the bar across the street and learn as much as you learned in the meeting, because once they get across the street and you have a couple of drinks, they're a little more liable to tell you what they really think, as opposed to, because some of those people that get up go and talk about things, and sometimes they're guarded about what they want to share with you, and sometimes they're maybe even anxious about pushback from other people about what they say. So
Yeah.
But as a general rule, they are very smart people that are really dedicated to their craft.
Okay. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, compared to the other veterinary shows that we went to, that's definitely the highest.
Well,
I would say it's one of the higher level education shows that we go to, where people are very skilled in their craft.
Yeah, the GPs, I mean, the GPs have their thing. And actually being as a GP myself, general practitioner, is what you really do is you kind of understand, when you get blood in the eye, is this an eye thing or is this a systemic thing? Why is there blood in the eye? Is there a bleeding disorder going on? So we kind of understand how this relates to this or that relates to that. And in fact, as a dermatologist, there weren't any dermatologists I can think of that were there, but there's
I didn't hear of any.
But there were some. They got their own meeting. Anyway, there's some dermatology conditions that are really systemic conditions.
Oh.
So you see mycosis fungoides, which is basically lymphoma of the skin, and which is cancer.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, lots of stuff. And so the liver affects the kidneys, and there's diseases like lepto that'll affect the kidneys, and it'll affect the liver too. Lyme, pretty much the same way. So you have to kind of understand how everything works sometimes and it's really sometimes like if you go to the Mayo Clinic, I think that's kind of what they do is they run you through a series of specialists and everybody looks at the thing they look at. And then those guys probably all get together, or girls, guys or girls.
And talk about it.
And then come to a conclusion as, okay, here's what we need to do.
Yeah. So we were down there with Dr. Sharon Center, who is a
retired veterinarian from Cornell, an internal medicine lady.
I feel like she has a lot of letters behind her name.
She does have a lot of letters behind her name.
She's very smart.
Yep.
And she was presenting on her new research papers that are going to be peer-reviewed soon.
Yep.
And if you'd like to explain them, I'll pass the torch to you.
So we've been a little tight-lipped about sharing all this stuff with people. But I guess what I'm going to tell you today is that over the last few years, I was involved with a program with Dr. Sharon Center out of Cornell. She's a big advocate for not having copper in dog food. So she's the flag bearer for this movement. Okay, and she's known she's been right for a long time, but it has a hard time getting the FDA and AFCO and the dog food companies to get behind her. So she had a presentation really of 3 papers. One was a poster, and then 2 of them were short presentations, abstracts. So she's submitted these manuscripts to the AVMA journal for peer review. And so that's where they're at right now. So I'm only going to really be able to talk about the abstract that she had.
But let me just add in so that people can kind of understand. These research papers take years. Like, what was the first? Was the portosystemic shunt one? That one was.
Well, that was 10 or 12 years in the making. So I'll talk about these as they go. So yes, the very first paper she talked about was there's a thing called portosystemic shunts that mostly occurs in sometimes Yorkies, certain breeds of dogs. And what it is, it's as blood comes back from the liver, or back from the body to the liver, there's a shortcut. And what happens is instead of going through the liver and having the blood processed in the liver, it takes a side trip. And it's sort of like when you're going down a main highway, you've got exit 27 and exit 42, and all of a sudden on exit 42, 3/4 of the blood's getting off at exit 42 and not going to Chicago or Detroit or wherever it's supposed to go. And so what happens is you don't process everything appropriately in your body, specifically the proteins. So you start to have some issues. Blood ammonia starts to ramp up because when you absorb all your protein sources, it's blood ammonia, and then it gets turned into blood urea nitrogen. And quite frankly, that doesn't happen because it doesn't go to that to that wheelhouse. And so it takes a shortcut. And so you start to have these things, neurologic conditions that occur because of wet ammonia high, and usually somebody will step in and use an ultrasound and diagnose what they call portosystemic shunt.
So there's specialty diets that these dogs go on.
Yeah. So what they do is to avoid all this, what you do is you try to get your calories from fat instead of protein. So you have these protein-restricted diets. And you use those diets to treat that. And sometimes that's all you do is use. Sometimes they do surgery, but sometimes all they do is use the diets and maybe some lactulose and some metronidazole or something like that to control that.
And these same diets are also used for?
Copper storage disease, because what they did was they took the copper out thinking, well, we can treat 2 liver diseases at the same time. It's copper storage and portosystemic shunt.
But dogs with copper storage disease don't necessarily need the limited protein diets.
No, they sure don't. In fact, that's the last thing they need. They need a diet that's complete and balanced.
So tell me about her research, what the findings were.
Well, she had all these dogs that had come in and been put on these diets. So then what they did was with those dogs, they were sick. So obviously they got regular rechecks all the time, and people would check up, and they'd come in. And what she did was she got a hold of all those records and collated them all. So one dog at a time.
What's collated?
So in other words, they took not a month's worth of data from this dog, but years worth of data.
And consolidated?
That's right. So then the question was, were these dogs anemic because they didn't have enough copper? Nope. Did they have any skin conditions because they were being fed a low copper diet? Nope. Did they have any kidney issues because they were fed a low copper diet? Nope. So they didn't have anything. So she was able to show that almost every dog that was on this diet, there were 400 of them, not once could she find any signs or symptoms of depleted copper or copper deficiency. And that is one of the reasons they put copper in dog food, because FDA, AFCO, and the dog food companies are really concerned about copper deficiency. Now, I've worked 51 years. Now, I'm not stupid, but I've never seen a copper deficient dog, and I don't.
Ever?
No, never.
And how many dogs do you think you've seen over the course of your career?
Hundreds of thousands.
Thousands.
And I think Dr. Center, as a practicing veterinarian at one time at Cornell, I don't think she's ever seen, I can't speak for her, but I don't think she's ever seen a copper deficiency. So we talk about the labs. You ever seen a copper deficiency at the labs? Nope.
But there's a lot of copper storage disease labs or copper overdose labs.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're actually killing quite a few dogs to prevent a disease that doesn't exist, which is really kind of silly. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of her point, that this really shouldn't happen.
So that was the first study.
That was the first paper. And I think it was well received, and people had a few questions about it. And you were sitting in the audience with us. Mm-hmm. And then the next paper was a study that we were involved in. And this took us a year to do this study. What we did was, when we were euthanizing dogs for life-ending events, in other words, 13-year-old dog can't walk anymore, or it's in kidney failure or liver failure, heart failure, whatever, and we euthanized them. And then after they were euthanized, I had a paper that Dr. Center had written, and I said, I know that your dog, maybe Ivy, your dog Ivy, is now deceased, and I really feel bad. I mean, although you did the right thing today, we always had this conversation with clients. You get to the point to where this is the nicest thing or kindest thing you've ever done for your dog when they're like this, and you help them out by euthanize them. And I said, well, now we're gone, so maybe what we ought to think about is would you like to have Ivy help another dog? And if you would, what I'd like to do, and these dogs were almost always being left for cremation, or they were going to get the individual cremation. I said, I would like to ask your permission to take a small piece of liver out and send it in, and we'd like to analyze it. I'd like to know what your dog ate the last 4 or 5 years, and if there's anything special else that was going on with your dog's diet, I'd like to know about that at the same time.
Questions. Did
Sure.
you ever get people that were like, oh, we switch the food all the time?
Occasionally, but not very often. Usually kind of once they got to that age, yes.
They're like, okay, this is what works, this is what we're staying on.
They change from puppy food to another food to another food to another food. And by the time they're at 3 or 4 years of age, they've developed their food allergies and they recognize what those are, or they've developed things they like or don't like. Yep, adverse food reactions, they've figured that out. So a lot of times when they get to a certain food, now I will tell you that they would be on sometimes certain diets, and they'd say, well, we're on the chicken and we're on maybe
the fish or something,
or the fish or the lamb. So about every other bag, one bag's this, one bag's that, one bag's this, one bag's that. It was a little dicey with some of the dogs that were eating foods where the protein source was meat and bone meal, which means it could have been anything.
Right.
It would be a good bag or a bag with a lot, bag with some, bag with none. So we kind of recognize that, but it's not a perfect study, and they didn't have leftover parts of any bag. So
right.
So then what we did is I collected all this data, and then every time I got 25 livers, I sent them to Dr. Center, and she did the assays. Yes.
I have another question. Did you ever get people that were offended?
Yeah, but I knew how to. I avoided those people. People are really emotional and everything.
So you don't ask when they're super emotional?
Nope.
Who is not emotional putting down their dog?
Super emotional. I mean.
You gauge it.
Yes.
You're like,
yeah, I've done this for a while, and so the people that were just, really had lost it, I stayed away from them. But the people who I sensed would probably want to do something, and really, I think what they did is, I think what those 104 clients did, I think it's terrific. I mean, I think it's going to make probably a big difference in everything if this ever gets done. But so the abstract's just something that's just sent in. It's not a given that it'll be published, but it's certainly it's a lot of data. So we had this data, and Dr. Center did it. And then what we were able to do is say, well, here's a group of dogs here that fed a low copper diet, a medium copper diet, and a high copper diet. Then you had a dot graph that showed how much copper was in each of those dogs' livers. It was
crazy.
It was crazy, yeah. I mean, it was just the way you would think it would be. If you're eating a lot of copper, you had a lot of copper in your liver. Eating a little bit of copper, you got some copper in your liver. And if you had, and if you were eating the diets like our diet, and there's a couple other diets like that, and those things had nothing. I mean, no stainable copper whatsoever. And so it was as we have spoken about this. And so anybody who's feeding Voyager dog food should feel validated, because lots of times we're talking about, well, this is what's going on. We don't have proof. We don't have proof. We don't have proof. Guess what?
We have proof now.
We have proof now. That's right. And significant proof. And so all I'm going to tell you is you should feel really good about your decision and what you did, because otherwise, and the number of dogs that had positive staining in their liver was around 35%. And remember, of all these dogs, some of these dogs were eating the low copper diet.
Yeah.
And so it would have been even more. It would have probably been more like 45%.
Oh, I believe
So you're not supposed to have any stainable copper. So Dr. Center was able to grade these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And she had a 5 and a 4, and then quite a few 3s, quite a few 2s, and a lot of 1s. So it's all done. And
now it's sent in to get peer reviewed.
Yep, and then hopefully it'll get published.
Where would it be published at so that people could read it?
Well, I'm not sure you're going to be able to read it. It's going to be in the AVMA journal, so it's going to be in your veterinarian's hands. But that's who it needs to be. And what we'll do when this thing gets published, then we'll publish our own stuff that says, okay, here's the deal. And this is not going to be peer reviewed. Well, I know what it'll be, but you send it where you can send it to, and people listen. People don't want to play. They don't want their dog playing Russian roulette because that's what they're doing. So, do you want your dog to, be part of a thing where, in fact, I'm just between you and I'm having a hard time understanding how these people that work at pet food companies that do know this, the smart people in there, the nutritionist and the internist that are working in a pet food company and trying to figure out why they're feeding that to their own dog. Mm-hmm. That seems odd. And I guess what they do is they figure, well, if my dog gets a high LT, I know what to do.
Right.
Yeah, but not everybody does.
No, I completely agree. You want to talk about her last paper?
Sure.
Or it wasn't technically a paper, it was a poster.
Yeah, it was a poster, yeah. We had a poster there. So what we did, everybody says, well, it's the genetics of the dog. And it's the dog's fault. It's bad genetics on behalf of the dogs. That's why they collect this copper in their liver. Didn't our fault, and so this is always the argument. It's not our fault. You know how this works. And at some point in time, you get old enough to where you say, well, this was my fault. And
Right.
but some people never attain that age.
I don't think any big box brand store dog food companies are
Well,
gonna
they got
big name brands.
yeah, they
Corporate America
they have
dog food.
they have their own mantra and stuff, and they're welcome to have their own mantra. I'm kind of trying to stay out of this today on this conversation, but I certainly I'm not happy with what they're doing, and what they're doing is they're not doing it to my dog anymore because I'm feeding our own food to our dogs. And you're feeding our food to your dogs, and my friends are feeding our food to their dogs, and my clients are feeding our food to their dogs. So I've done what I can do in my own community to stop this. And by the way, just for the record, we sell Voyager dog food in every state of the union. So if you
Go online.
if you've got a street in front of your house and the UPS can get down it, then we can send you stuff. But this is not an ad. This is not an ad campaign for selling dog food. But this is just to validate your decision to do this. So the last paper, and this is the fun one, and by the way, they had told us traditionally, well, maybe it's in the water, maybe it's this. So we sent water in from the community also, and even the formalin we sent the samples in with. We checked to see how much copper was in. We checked to see how much copper was in the water. So I'm guessing Sharon's got them nailed to the wall on this, but. So what we did was, and this was kind of a funny thing, when I started sending the coyotes in, she said, send them in, do 25, send them in, do 25, send them in. So I got to about 23, and I had a chance to get a couple coyotes that somebody had, and they were deceased. And so we got the livers out of these 2 coyotes. So I sent those to her, but I didn't tell her what they were. I just said I put names on them.
Genetic makeup similar to a dog.
Yeah. Anyway.
Or is it the same as a dog?
Well, they can reproduce with dogs. So it's.
Whoa, I did not know that.
That's what. Yeah. Koi. That's what a koi dog is.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you not know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah. They can, and they can breed with wolves and stuff too.
Wait, can dogs breed? Dogs can breed with wolves.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they have like part wolf dogs. I don't
Yeah.
know how accurate those are.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
crazy.
Well, there may not be a lot of necking afterwards, but you get the idea. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Anyway, where are we at here? So anyway, I sent these 2 coyote livers into her, and then I had to write what food they've been eating. And I said, well, it's a non-conforming AFCO diet, and which meant it wasn't an AFCO diet.
Right.
So she calls me back, and we get on the phone, and we're chatting about stuff, and she says, so I need to know something. I said, what's that? She says, I got these 2 dogs here. We're eating a non-AFCO conforming diet. What in the hell is that at? What is a non-conforming AFCO diet? And I said, what's the dog's name? And so I named these 2 coyotes. The first one I named Wiley, as in Wile E. Coyote, which is the cartoon stuff. And
Yeah.
I named the other one Wilbur or something like that. So I was doing the W.
Yeah,
I was naming
so you
them-
remember.
Yeah, I was still putting them with W things on them. And then I thought, wow, she's probably going to be mad because maybe she thought I would have made her look foolish or something. I
Like
didn't.
messed with her study.
I messed with her study. And then there was a little silence on the other end of the phone. And I thought, oh, here it comes. And then she says, can you get more? And I said, yeah, I can get more. So we worked at that for part of a year, which you helped us do that.
Yeah, we went to they have a predator competition in Michigan.
Yeah, sponsored by the Department of Natural Resources. So we had an opportunity to get a couple of livers. And so when we got all said and done, we had 88 livers. And listen, these things are at the bottom. These things the dogs averaged around 300 parts per million of copper. The coyotes averaged 25 parts per million. So 300 versus 250. Excuse me, 300 versus 25 parts, parts per million. And a couple of the coyotes, maybe they were actually copper deficient because I think their levels were down 5 or 6 or 7 or something like that.
But typically coyotes just eat corn.
No, they eat other animals. That's what
I know. I've seen them eat corn. They eat the stomach lining out of whatever they kill.
Yep.
Roadkill.
Well, they eat everything. They'll eat everything. They drag it back to the den and eat it.
I'm kind of surprised. When I used to hunt, I used to see coyotes come out and they would like eat off of like grass and stuff. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's like a stomach thing because I see dogs do that.
Well, they do that. They can't. I mean, if they get corn and there's some protein or starch in there, yeah, they can use some of that.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so we had the coyote thing and 104 dogs versus coyotes, and it wasn't even a game. It was like, it was not even a game. It was 25 versus 300, and
300 was the average, you said?
for the dogs, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one dog that was like almost 1,800 or something. Maybe it was 1,800, don't remember. Anyway, but there were a lot of dogs. We had, and I would tell you about one dog. One dog was eating our food, and I thought, well, this dog will be really low. And I got the results back, and it was like 800. Well, that dog was eating a raw diet in our food, and the raw diet.
Was liver organ meat?
No, it was heart, beef heart.
Oh.
And it was probably dairy cow heart, and it had a ton in it.
Because they put it in dairy cow feed to make them.
Yes, and the dairy cows live to be 8 or 9 or 10 years old.
So it's accumulating it for quite some time.
A long time.
I didn't know the heart stores it too.
The heart, the kidneys, and the liver, all three of those.
That's good to know.
Yeah. We looked on, we kind of gauged it, and it looks like that's 55 parts per million. The heart is, but they were eating it for a long time, and we don't know what kind of beef, whether it was beef heart like a young steer that was only 2 years old, or whether it was an old cow which is 8 or 9 years old. So
I imagine they'd stopped. Wait, is this from a deceased dog?
Yeah, it was.
This was not a regular biopsy. This is a deceased. Okay.
This is a dog that was euthanized.
Did you ever share the results to the owner?
Nope, not yet. I may do that at some point in time, but at this point, it hadn't been published. So I'm really kind of tight to. So I'm really telling you the stuff that was in the summation of that thing, which was what we talked about.
And if you guys do want updates on this, we will be sending out emails via our newsletter. So if you would like to subscribe, go on to VoyagerDogFoodCo.com and sign up for our email so you can get updates on this.
And by the way, when this finally gets published, this won't be debatable. This will be exactly what this is. And then if anything ever happens, I mean, then the question is, does AAFCO step in and do something about this? Does the dog food company step in and do anything about this? Does FDA step in and do anything about this? Or do we just sit here paralyzed and do exactly nothing and hope that this story dies out? I'm betting on the latter.
Yeah.
That's what I'm betting on. Although I have a sneaking suspicion the FDA has a mission statement, but I sure as hell don't know what it is. And I'm not even sure, and that's the worst part, is I'm not sure they know what it is. They're supposed to protect us and our pets, and either going to do it.
Wasn't there some rumors going around about the FDA like absorbing AAFCO or AAFCO just not being a thing anymore?
There's a little bit of something about, they're going to split. They're going to have a.
I thought I saw an article about that.
I think they're getting a divorce.
Oh, they don't agree.
Well, I don't know why. It's government. It's government stuff.
Who are the people on these panels?
Most of them are not people in our business. There is one veterinarian on there.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that there's only one veterinarian. Is he even a nutritionist?
No, I don't know what he is. He's retired now.
So why should some...
So just so you know, he has been a big advocate of leaving copper in dog food. Now, I wanted to name this disease, instead of calling it copper storage disease, I wanted to name it after him. That's what I thought.
Should we drop his name on the air?
No, we should not drop his name on
the air. Why? It's no fun.
You can look it up. See, veterinarian works for AAFCO. You can look that up probably. I think he retired a couple of years ago. But he should get credit for this. If you do something, you should get, especially if it's your...
God, you're such a dick.
I know. If it's your life's ambition to do this and do what you did, then you should take credit for it, and you should.
Was he the one that called you the well-intentioned veterinarian?
No, that was somebody out of Kansas State that did that. But they're all in it together. It's like a fraternity of people. So
I just love knowing who's on your shit list.
I'm not in it. I was not in a fraternity. If you were good, more power to you. It just wasn't my gig. But anyway, so it's a fraternity of people that are like thinking, and so it's a fraternity of people, and they've decided that this is how this is going to be, and nobody. Absolutely
nobody
is going to tell us different. So,
well, that's too bad.
It is, and but I wanted to share that with our listeners, and there's people who are watching or people who are listening. This is a deal, and when this comes out, it should start a bit of a movement, and I would think that some of the people in the industry, there's people in the industry that actually advise people what they should feed their dogs, and they're critical of some of the things that the dog food companies do.
Yeah.
But just keep in mind, I think it's always good to keep an open mind that sometimes people look at diets and they decide what they know about a diet is what they've seen on TV, an ad.
Yeah.
So an ad's an ad. I mean, I get on and look at some of these ads on some of the like Instagram stuff like that. This is nuts. These people are insane. And of course now they can AI it, and it looks like I was watching.
Hey, AI is not a big. I mean, everyone utilizes AI nowadays.
I know, but it was a thing of Tom Hanks saying there was a new cure for diabetes. Well, there wasn't any new cure for diabetes. This is Tom Hanks is officially pissed because people are using his name.
Yeah.
It sure as hell looks like him, and it sure as hell sounds like him. And
Yep.
it's damn well done. I've seen it. I've seen after football games where the coach will be interviewed, and now the AI people get a hold of it, and they're saying things like, well, the dumb shit coach on the other team did this and did that. He's an idiot. He should lose his job.
But you got to know what's AI and what's not. You can kind of tell a little bit.
Yeah.
You just have to have an eye for
It's
it.
a little bit on the jerky side.
I know.
Anyway, it's so this is big news for us. I would have loved to have told people what was going on, but when these abstracts came out, now it's out. It was at the AVCIM, which is down in Louisville, Kentucky. They have it someplace different every year.
Yeah.
And it was a damn good meeting.
But we were going to ask something of our listeners today. If you guys could, if you have dogs with copper storage disease, or if you have a story to tell, we implore you to put it out on the internet and make a movement of it.
Well, you can. You know what? If your dog's been diagnosed and you had a biopsy and it has copper storage, call the FDA, tell them it happened. That's the biggest thing, but people don't do that.
To put it out on social media and have more people see it and more people hear about it, it's going to become more mainstream because right now it's not very mainstream because it doesn't get diagnosed very often. A lot of veterinarians don't know about it. A lot of people aren't talking about it.
So it happens to it can happen to every single breed in America. However, if you have a Labrador, a Dalmatian, a Doberman, or Westie, King Cavalier, Spaniel, if you have those 5 breeds, you need to keep your eyes open, and you need to probably start running blood work when they get to be 3 years of age. And if somebody says your liver enzymes are going up, don't wait for it to keep on going, because sometimes it doesn't need to get very high before your dog gets real unhappy.
Really sick, really quick.
Unhappy about having copper in the liver. Exactly.
Yeah. So please, if you have a story, share it with us, post it on Instagram, post it on Facebook, TikTok, get it out there so that more people understand and know about this terrible disease.
Sure.
Also, if you want to give Voyager a plug, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, but we're not here to be alarmist. We're just here to tell you, hey, damn good for you. Your decision if you're feeding Voyager dog food, good for you.
The industry needs to make a change.
Sure.
And the only way that they're going to make a change is if enough people get loud enough to bother the industry about it and to change the habits of how they make dog food.
Yeah, I have classmates of mine that buy our food now because they know what we did.
Yeah.
And by the way, what we did was what we did as a group of people. That's what Sharon and I did, what you and I did, what the people at the Voyager plant did, so what our nutritionists did, what our food scientists did, is what everybody got together and collaborated. I've always loved collaborating with people. We do things as a team. In fact, I always told somebody one time, I said, a difference between a football coach and a veterinarian is damn near nothing, because you have players and you're coaching them up. Now, the only thing I can tell you about what we do is we get to keep our players for more than 4 years. Good for us. And they get a little better every year. Poor Nick Saban only got to keep his people for 4 years. I'm not comparing myself to Nick Saban, by the way, but you get the idea.
It's okay.
Well, did you know your mother and I sat down and had an ice cream, a hot fudge sundae with him a long, long time ago.
I heard about that.
Yeah. And we talked about our kids and everything.
Oh, you talked about me?
Well, yeah, you were probably only 3 or 4 years of age or something like that. This would have been 1997 or 1988. You were born in 95.
95, yeah.
Yep.
Sounds about right. All right, well, you ready to wrap this up and get some outro music going?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We sure appreciate you listening along with us today, and we hope that we've been able to share some good information that will help you love your animals as much as they love you. Don't forget, always treat the treatable, prevent the preventable, and we will catch you on the next one.
Hopefully your dog won't be doggone.
Doggone.